Women in business is one of the themes here. Want to introduce you to Elizabeth Lyons, an old friend. She's based in Dallas now, originally from New Jersey. She is a business trainer, helps women in business as well as guys. And she's also an author. She wrote a book called Roar, and it's about how people can do more and be more aggressive without coming across as aggressive. Interesting, isn't it? Let's welcome Elizabeth Lyons.
Hi, this is Ed Cohen, your broadcast host on Global TV Talk Show, a unit with globalradiotalkshow.com. Our special guest today is Elizabeth Lyons from Dallas. Hello.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being our guest again on Global. You were on the radio with us a couple of years ago, and you've spoken at least two of our live meetings, I remember.
Yep.
And always provocative and always entertaining, but more so, you give good information, not just for women, but for men who care.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. So tell us about your most recent book.
Sure. So my latest book is called Hear Us Roar, Unapologetic Women Leading in Corporate America. And I thought I wrote a women's leadership book, and apparently I wrote a book for everyone. So a lot of male executives have actually purchased the book. And I talk about my own career blunders. I talk about what it's like to work in a male-dominated field. I talk about what it's like to work with some pretty high-powered, high-strung executives, and how you can overcome some of the places where you're not confident and really partner and do some really great business with men, and still be authentic and still have your own power. And it's made quite the splash. I'm amazed at how far it's gotten, and I'm amazed at the men that read it. I'm amazed at the men that buy it and give it to their wives to read it. So there must be something in the water. Yeah.
That's really interesting. So in your earlier PR, particularly, I was just looking at your LinkedIn page about an hour ago, and you describe, you aim it at women in this case, but you were saying, well, who you are and how people get to you and what kind of situations women in particular find themselves in, and you list 6 or 7 positions, like the disappointment, didn't get the job, or abuse, or not being included,
Mm-hmm.
and so how to respond. Would you mind doing a quick survey for our audience about this Me Too movement and if it's backfiring to some extent?
Yeah, so the first time that I say, when a reporter calls me about my book or somebody from the press reaches out, the first thing I say is, Elizabeth Lyons is definitely not Me Too, and if that's what you're looking for, you've come to the wrong place. So my message is absolutely about collaboration. It's about understanding men. It's about not playing a victim card, and it's about understanding how your own communication style might backfire and may not work with a male executive. And so how do you change? I mean, the situations aren't always going to change, but how do you change as a woman, and how do you kind of clean up some perception so then you can get that nonsense out of the way and actually do some really good work together? And I've got to tell you that I've never had an issue working with males my whole career. I've never had any issues. And so I've never been unconfident. I've never been passed over for the promotion. I was the one that was kind of identified as a key player and as a partner. And I didn't realize how unusual I was. And so I never went out to kind of target the female audience. All of this just sort of happened, and the book was written. And that's not to say that women don't stumble or don't have horrible harassment or things happen in their career. I believe that happens, but I personally haven't done that. So my perspective is very unique, and it works. And you don't have to be like me to do it either. There's simple tips and tricks that any woman can do in a male-dominated field that are going to help them to be collaborative and to kind of put that aside. So I'm not a fan of that movement, frankly. It definitely has hurt a lot of women, particularly in financial services or other male-dominated areas, IT, engineering. Let me give you a quick story about that.
Yes.
2 years ago, I was in a coffee shop. I was in Atlanta. I had flown in. I had some meetings. And, we did this double take in the coffee shop. And I was like, Gary, is that you? And he's like, Elizabeth, is that you? And I go, oh my gosh, how are you? And I had built this man's team and worked with him and his direct reports for months and did all this work. I knew him. I saw him once years ago, so I thought it was him, but I wasn't sure. And he did this funny thing, Ed. He goes, like, to hug me, and then he pulls back. And he does it 3 times. He does this like hug thing, and then he stops and he goes, Elizabeth, I don't know what to do here, what's appropriate. And I just laughed and I go, for God's sakes, Gary, I've known you for years and I'm not a part of that movement. It's okay if you hug me. But it was this very real moment for this guy, and it was just this struggle. And, it's so unnecessary with me because I definitely throw out the vibe if you're not supposed to be near me as well as if you're okay to embrace me. But, that's real. Like what Gary felt in that moment was real, right? And so it backfired in the way that then the men became scared. And then the men were like, okay, now we don't have any power and we don't want to lose our careers. Like literally, women have gone after men's careers on purpose to hurt them. And what ends up happening is they blow out their families and they blow out their livelihoods and they blow out their ability to course correct and to move on. And
right. They become radioactive.
Yeah, and I'll be the first one to say, yeah, I'm pro male. I mean, the bottom line is it was the men that gave me the opportunities. It's been the men that have paid me. I would love to tell you, some woman identified me and chose me for a job and we went off and did great things. I think I had one in my whole career. I mean, mostly it's the men. So I would never be disparaging personally or professionally, nor would I, join that particular message. I know it's hurt us in corporate America. I've had women in corporate America say to me, they don't speak for me. And I have a real problem with that because I don't totally agree with all of that. And that wasn't my story out there. So there's a lot of mixed feelings around that. It's a hot topic.
So you also are working in financial payments?
Yeah. So
what's that about?
Yeah, so I've been in the financial payment space for 8 years now, and I work with top executives, and I actually identify, select, and hire cybersecurity people. And then I have my own coaching practice where I coach women in development and leadership. So if it's an emerging leader and she wants some leadership training, I do that. And I also do job seeking at the executive level or the IT level. I've had my coaching practice for a lot of years. And the books support that, and a lot of the other things, the webinars and so forth that I do out there supports that as well. But the cool thing, and that what makes me a little different, is I'm not just a coach that hung a shingle, I'm living it. Like, so I'm real time, my advice is very market savvy, I have my ear to the ground. And a lot of coaches after a few years, they are kind of out of touch with some of the things that are going on in the workplace. So that's what makes my program and my coaching practice a little different.
Okay, so now talking about the younger women or younger people, say first job, 25, 30 years old. They're so techie. Are you seeing that they have a lack of interpersonal skills, or is it just a group that seems to be focused on tech and not on people skills?
No, I think it's all about orientation. I had a young man, Gen Y, reach out to me on LinkedIn and said, I would love to interview you for a leadership piece. And he asked extremely thoughtful questions around, how do we advance our careers? How do we get to the next level? Why aren't we hired? And it was so refreshing to see someone of that generation say, you've been there and done it. Show me, teach me, where are we falling down as a generation? And it was a great piece that we did together. And I said to him, if they had the orientation that you do, like, coach me. If you would literally say to somebody, show me, tell me what you want from me, be specific. you would cut out a lot of time, wasted time in your own frustration. And then you leave the job and you think it's the job or the manager, where really it was your approach. So I think that they're techie, but they're, it's really up to us to kind of coach them and bring that out of them, because it's there. It's definitely there with the top performers, that willingness, that ability to listen, the desire to connect, the desire to do well. But it's up to us to either ask the questions to pull it out of them, or to stop being frustrated and meet them halfway.
Interesting. Okay, so now what are you doing as businesses go back to work?
Yeah, so, my side hustle is kind of blown up. I'm doing a tremendous amount of webinar work. I'm definitely moving into podcast work. I'm getting a lot of calls for that. I'm toying with, do I start my own podcast here soon? Definitely toying with writing the 4th book. It would be a much shorter read. My own space, I'm also moving into more mindfulness and leadership. I'm doing some of that work. There's call for that, and the audience seems ready. And the irony is I've had my own meditation practice for almost a decade. So I know what it's like to be a busy executive and have your mind spinning, and then the discipline to stop that. And so that's been really fun. In fact, I teach a meditation class. There's right now, in I think 3 weeks, there's 116 executives at the vice president level that have registered. 98% are women with the VP title or a director title or associate director title. The other piece that's there would be individual contributors, some men, and then like a smattering of IT. But in just a few weeks of just putting it out there and advertising it, it was amazing how many at the executive level are interested in mindfulness, are interested in meditation, and so forth. And so I see my practice starting to move that direction as well.
What percentage of your customers do you think are boomers?
It's a good chunk. It's a good chunk of boomers, and I would say Gen X. And frankly, they can pay for services. I mean, there's no other way for me to say that. They can pay for services, and they want to. I do find, the late 30s something interested in it. But it depends where they're at and if their company will give them kind of the coaching and the leadership development. If it's available, I see them reaching for it. Because they start to figure out, I can't get any further. There must be something going on here. There must be some problem here.
Right. So they need like a third eye.
Yeah, coaching is
way of expressing that.
Yeah, coaching is a place that you can really identify your blind spots pretty quickly and get feedback, and then tangible steps to correct that. I mean, I have programs that we've seen huge results in 30 days. There's some clients I will only write a 30-day program because I pinpoint the issue and then we go from there. And it could be as simple as cleaning up email. You can't believe the things that people will say in email. It paints this perception. They're passed over for the promotion and they don't know why. And it's always something they said or a perception they left behind. So everybody can always get better at something, I think. And interpersonal is a never ending because you're always going to get that one in the office that you just can't stand working with. So there's always that opportunity with, okay, here's that personality again. How do I get around that? And a coach, the right coach, can help with that.
So do you get into styling, clothing, looks, speaking roles, media training?
Not media training or speaking, but I don't really do styling. But if a woman or a male client, I've actually had male clients will say to me, should I color my hair? Should I shave the beard? Should I grow the beard? Should I lose 25 pounds? I've literally had male clients, second session in go, very vulnerable with me. And that's an honor, truly. And so I'm very delicate when they want that kind of feedback, but I'm going to give them the feedback because at the end of the day, they have to be competitive. And if they're at the executive level, the bottom line is there's going to be 5 at the end, boil down to 3, boil down to 2, and either you're the guy or you're not. And you might need an edge. And some of that edge is about energy and it's perception, and some of it is visual. I mean, some of it just is. And so, yeah, I'll get into those areas, but, am I any kind of a, fashion person or stylist? I've seen those folks out on LinkedIn. They do tremendous work. That's not really my space. But if it's about being competitive and landing the job, if it's about being competitive and getting that promotion, yeah, I definitely know the do's and don'ts. And fortunately or unfortunately, I've been in the closed door meetings. I know why you didn't get the job or not. I know. That's the beauty. Elizabeth Lyons knows why you're hired, fired, or promoted before you do. And so I will tell that to a client, because that's what they're paying me for too. They're paying me for that.
So the company isn't able to, or they don't know how to, or they don't want to be direct with the real reasons for whatever the reason, but they would tell you as a professional to get the message back.
Sometimes, well, then you're in this weird area of the law. So sometimes what happens in the feedback sessions, you're with an executive, and it's down to Bill and Bob and Jane, and one of them gets it. And in the course of casual conversation, because they feel very comfortable with me too, they'll say, and so said this, and so did that. And it just turned me off, and I don't want to go that way. And it had nothing to do with skill set. And so it's a small thing. Now, that feedback may not go back to that client, or to that candidate rather. But if that's a client in my coaching practice, I try to give feedback so that they're polished, they're pulled together, and they're ready. So that's both sides of it there.
So with people working from home, some of them for the first time, more than just a spot job, but day after day, it's created problems at home. Yes, and it's also created problems with the boss, who maybe learned some things that were private before.
Yeah.
So all this perception of role playing and messaging and performance, I guess, is there somewhere. Could you address that?
Yeah, I would like to touch on that. So the last week or two, and remember, we're all new in this, the last week or two, there's been some data that's come out from some pretty good sources that have stated that, when it's a male or a male executive, it's very endearing that we see their children on camera. It's very warm, and it's like, oh, and he's a dad too, that's kind of cool. And when it's the woman, it's not taken well, and it's taken as, she's an unfocused mother. And yeah, it's interesting. There's a double-edged sword there. And I was a little surprised to see that kind of, surveys out there and those kinds of perceptions. But the reality is, as they say, work and life is now all one thing, because you're all behind this camera screen, and anytime your child or your dog could bark. So it's definitely blurred. There's no separation there. Post COVID-19, you're going to find a lot of work from home. You're not going to find where their kids are still in the home. They'll go back to school, and life will go on eventually, as it should. But in terms of being on, Zoom meetings and camera meetings and working from home, they did one study out of 4 just a week ago, and over 75% of CFOs say they're cutting their corporate real estate. Why wouldn't they? Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer that people can work from home and do it. So I think that's going to be the upside. I think what you're going to see open up there is it doesn't matter where you live. You could apply to a job in California and live in Maine. That work from home is going to be very different now, and that you're going to be able to also tap on some really good talent and some areas that, when the job was posted in the city, you had to have the headcount in the city. And so, when you get into tight markets like Portland, Oregon, very tight market, and there's only so much talent available, now they could actually be able to entice a candidate out of Seattle or out of California if the salary bands could match up. You're gonna find more of an open season for talent. The wars of talent will change.
So, so the interesting thing is generational and work from home and the relations at home, homeschooling, and whoever thought they'd be doing that more, but, and then the spouse or the partner in the home, looking for screen time or bandwidth, or at what time of day. I'm finding that work isn't 9 to 5. It's 24/7, and not that it's constant 24/7, but man, you get some quiet time at midnight. You take it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say by the end of the day, I'm ready to shut it off and get my mind out of the last Zoom meeting. And there is a thing called Zoom exhaustion, apparently. You get drained from being on one after another after another. So,
Yeah. Well, you can't think. All you do is listen, and nothing is sticking.
yeah, they did I just came across a study today. I was listening to a webinar on this topic, and they said that, interestingly enough, if you watch it on video, you'll retain 75%, but if you read it, you'll only retain 10%. So that was an interesting statistic. So again, I think we're going to evolve and morph and so forth. The cameras now are changing. You know, that I bought a very high-end laptop, but the bottom line is I can get an external camera, much better quality resolution for anywhere between 80 and a couple $100 on Amazon.
A GoPro.
Yeah, there's lighting that you can get for behind the camera if you want that. So I think, you know, you're going to see people start to figure this out, and it'll morph and go to the next, you know, iteration of it.
So do you have one of those ring lights shining on you right now?
I do. I actually do, and we just got it. So we're trying that out.
It's flat. It's an even length.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
That's what they
No,
tell
it
me.
looks good. It looks good. But so I'm sitting at the table, and I'm going to shut this light off. So I just shut this light off. You see the top of my head now. I'm going to put it back on. All right.
See?
So you see the
There
light?
you go. Yep.
Yeah. So actually, for camera, that is actually better to have on.
Yep.
And I have the street light coming in, and I have this light over here, you know, which is my desk light, but that's in the way right now.
Yeah, but it's great because your glasses don't have glare, right? So it's these little tiny subtle things. The biggest tip and trick that it works without any fail is I'll have Steve go in to the home office, and he'll Skype me, and he can tell me exactly how to kind of get everything situated, and then he'll walk off and do something else. So it's a good finished product. But I mean, that's kind of the best way to get feedback, because even if you said to me, how do I look? I would have been like, fine. But if you turn the light off and on, I could say, oh, A is better than B, right? Like it's that kind of a thing. So it's hard to really judge that. It's better if somebody's got an iPad or a device and they can kind of look at you.
So I see right behind you on the left, it looks like there's a camera there. Is that a camera looking at me?
No, it's a beautiful piece of art.
No, on the other side.
Oh.
That black window?
Nope.
Oh.
No, this?
Yeah.
Light switch.
Okay. You know,
My living room.
Well, you know, I thought it was like a secret camera hiding.
Nope. No, this is my living room. My living room couch, and that's the hallway with the art.
Yeah, it looks nice. It's like perspective going down the hall.
I like that. It's my favorite piece. My husband bought it for me years ago. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. So is it his Harley Davidson, or is it yours?
It's ours because we share payment, but no, it's I ride on the back. I ride on the back. He drives.
Yeah. So you don't have a matching one?
No, not so. Everybody thinks that with my personality, I would definitely have my own motorcycle. But the irony is, I don't want my own motorcycle because I say I drive all day long. I make decisions and I'm pushing and driving all day long. That is the only place in my life where everything just stops. Other than the meditation practice, that's the only place. I don't have to make any decisions. I don't have to do anything. And if we hit something, I'm going to be the last to know because I'm not paying attention back there. So I really am able to let go on the bike and just relax.
Yeah, that's great. So Elizabeth, how can people get in touch with you directly?
Yeah. So the first place, check out my website, lyonsology.com. I would check out that. There's some great videos, little inspiration there. You can get a good sense of my content. And there is my contact information too, if you want to reach out to me directly.
Right. Okay. Well, thanks for being our guest.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care.
Have a nice weekend.
You too.
This is
Bye.
in San Diego, and that's Elizabeth in Dallas area. And we're signing off from Global TV.